Over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about progress in carbon removal. That meant tracking deliveries and data so we can measure our progress. What I want to talk about today is what's at the other end, right? What's the goal that we're all headed for? I've seen a bunch of discussion about this recently about what the goal is given everything that's happening in carbon removal. So first off, I'm going to share the questions that I find useful to align my own thinking, and then I'm going to share thoughts on the goal. So first off, I have a couple questions that I go through. This is for aligning my own thinking about the changing climate and when I talk with other people about the changing climate. So you might remember some of these questions. This is the climate changing? Is it caused by humans? Is the impact big? Can we do anything about it? And is decarbonization alone enough, or do we need carbon removal too? All those questions are really good for sharpening your own understanding, and especially when you're talking to somebody else. So for example, if you're talking to somebody who says, climate change is a huge deal, but humans aren't causing it. Well, then we can have a, talk about that. Or maybe, I met somebody that said, the impacts are going to be massive, but we're powerless to stop it given everything that's happening with our politics. Well, then we can certainly talk about that. Now, when you're talking to people who are already working on carbon removal solutions, everybody's kind of on the same page about those first couple questions. But where I often and more recently find that people aren't on the same page is about how much carbon needs to be removed and by when. That is the key to a discussion in carbon removal land. And then the follow-up question is, well, where do we need to be by 2030? So I'm going to talk about where my head is at on these things, and afterwards I want to hear from you about how you think about this. For me, I'm here for climate impact, for a stable climate and a thriving human civilization. So staying below 2 degrees of warming is really important towards that. And from the IPCC, we get this 2050 model of net zero plus 10 billion tons per year of carbon dioxide removal. So then my answer to the question, how much and by when, is 10 billion tons per year by 2050. Next question, where do we need to be by 2030? I use the Rocky Mountain Institute report. That's the one that came out from the Bezos Earth Fund. It's this S-curve model showing that to be on track for 10 billion tons by 2050, then we need to be at 285 million tons per year of removal by 2030. And I mapped out that if we triple carbon removal every year from 2024 to 2030, then we hit that. And these numbers below show that yearly breakdown. So tripling every year is an incredible amount of growth for an industry. If you look at industries like computing or biotech, Moore's Law is something like 41% year-over-year growth. We're talking about 300% year-over-year growth rate. And so I can totally imagine you saying, that's a ton, that's just totally bananas, right? We're never going to be able to pull that off. We have seen during short bursts incredible growth rates, incredible innovation. I think about the moon landing, multiple industries all coming to life, all growing extremely quickly, bringing together everybody under that tent and having them work together. Same thing with coming together during World War II. And that's what I'm pointing towards. It's needed, it's doable, it is not reasonable. And that is how I think about carbon removal. So what I want to ask is, what's your carbon removal goal? How much carbon dioxide removal and by when? And then where do we need to be by 2030? If you're thinking along the lines of 10 billion by 2050, what happens if we get to 1 billion tons in 2050? Is that a success? Is that a failure? How's that in your head? On the other hand, maybe you're like, look, you're like heads down, you're watching this video, you're reading this email, you're like, I am doing the thing right now. Don't get me started on these big picture things. I hear you. I encourage you to give it a shot. It can really help to align your own thinking day to day. And if you're really clear about what your goal is for the end of the, this 6 months or this year, I'd love to hear about that too. So hit reply, and I really look forward to hearing how you think about these carbon removal goals.